My first death happened in complete silence. No one heard the airtight doors seal. No one heard me scream into the void of my helmet. I was 23 years old, and I was suffocating 300 meters beneath the surface of the North Sea. The umbilical cable that fed oxygen to my suit was cleanly severed. It was not an accident. I saw the remotely operated vehicle approach. I saw the manipulator arm extend. I saw the cutting blade activate. And I saw the face of the man controlling it on my helmet display. His name was Kael Voss. He was my best friend. When my body was recovered 3 days later, the company ruled it a systems failure. Kael stood at my memorial service and delivered a eulogy that made my mother weep. He called me his brother. He said the ocean had taken one of its bravest explorers. He accepted a promotion to operations manager the following week. My sister Lena received a settlement payment of $400,000. She used it to buy a beachfront apartment. She told her friends the view helped her heal. 6 months later, the company quietly filed for a patent on the deep-sea mineral extraction technique I had developed. Kael Voss was listed as the inventor. I learned all of this during the 2 years I spent dead. My consciousness did not fade. It lingered in the crushing dark. It watched. It remembered. It waited. And when I finally opened my eyes again, I was standing in the company induction hall. Alive. Whole. Listening to Kael Voss deliver the same speech he had given 2 years and a lifetime ago. Welcome to Aegis Deepwater Solutions. The voice was smooth and warm and practiced. The voice of a man who knew exactly how to make you trust him. You are the Elite 12. The best marine engineers and saturation divers of your generation. You have been selected for the Borealis project, a 2-year deep-sea mining expedition that will revolutionize the energy industry. I stood in the back of the hall. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my teeth. My hands were shaking. I was wearing the same gray induction suit I had worn in my first life. I had the same badge with the same photo. Everything was identical except for one thing. I remembered everything. Kael Voss had severed my umbilical. He had watched me claw at my helmet while the carbon dioxide built up in my blood. He had logged the incident as a mechanical failure before my body was even cold. He had stolen my research and built his career on my grave. And the 12 people standing around me in this hall, my fellow inductees, my supposed teammates, they had all signed the same non-disclosure agreement I had signed. They would all be offered the same deal I had been offered. Keep quiet and get rich. Ask questions and find out what happens at the bottom of the sea. I did not intend to die again. But first I needed to get out of this hall without drawing attention. Kael finished his speech and the inductees erupted in applause. They were young and eager and desperate to prove themselves. I had been just like them in my first life. I had believed in the mission. I had believed in the company. I had believed in Kael. Now I knew better. Now I was a dead woman walking among the living. I slipped toward the exit while the crowd pressed forward to shake Kael's hand. I almost made it. Mara Solis caught my arm. Mara was a saturation diver from the Gulf Coast. She had been one of the few people who was genuinely kind to me in my first life. She had also been the one who found my helmet floating near the borehole. She had been the one who radioed the surface with a shaking voice and said, "I think we lost someone." I did not blame her for what happened. But I could not afford to trust her either. "Dr. Vance," she said, "you look like you've seen a ghost. Are you okay?" I forced a smile. "Fine," I said. "Just a little airsick from the helicopter ride. Do you know where the restroom is?" She pointed toward a corridor. "Second door on the left. Do you want me to come with you? No, I said. I just need a minute. I walked away before she could say anything else. The induction facility was built on a converted oil platform in the middle of the North Sea. It was a small city of steel and rust and salt spray. The only way on or off was by helicopter or supply vessel. My phone had been confiscated at check-in. Standard protocol, they said. Prevent industrial espionage. In reality, it was a leash. I had no way to call for help. I had no way to contact the mainland. I had no way to prove what I knew was true. But I had something better than a phone. I had foresight. I remembered the layout of the platform. I remembered the security patrol schedules. I remembered the blind spots in the camera coverage. I remembered the emergency evacuation procedures that were never actually filed with the Maritime Authority. I remembered everything. And I remembered that there was a satellite phone hidden in the old radio room on the lower deck. The room was officially decommissioned. Unofficially, it was where the platform supervisor kept his private communication line to the corporate headquarters. He used it to send weekly reports directly to the CEO. Reports that were not logged on the main server. Reports that detailed the real progress of the Borealis project, including the parts that violated international maritime law. I reached the lower deck without being stopped. The corridor was dim and smelled of diesel and corroded metal. The radio room door was locked. I had expected this. In my first life, I had broken into this room 3 months into the project. I had been searching for a quiet place to call my sister on her birthday. I had found the satellite phone instead. I had also found a folder of documents labeled Asset Management. Inside were life insurance policies for every member of the expedition. The company had insured each of us for $3 million. The beneficiary in every case was Aegis Deepwater Solutions. I had confronted Kael about it. He had laughed and told me it was standard corporate practice. He had told me to stop being paranoid. I had believed him. 3 weeks later, my umbilical was severed. This time I did not wait 3 months. I smashed the lock with a fire extinguisher I had grabbed from the hallway. The door swung open. The room was exactly as I remembered it. A metal desk. A filing cabinet. A satellite phone docked in its charging cradle. I picked up the handset and dialed the number for the Norwegian Coast Guard. A woman's voice answered after 3 rings. Kystvakten? What is your emergency? My name is Dr. Thea Vance, I said. I am a marine engineer stationed on the Aegis Deepwater platform. I need to report a potential crime. The transmission cut off. I stared at the handset. Dead air. I tried again. Nothing. I checked the power cable. It was still plugged in. Then I heard a voice behind me. That phone has not worked in years. I spun around. A man was standing in the doorway. He was tall and broad and wore the uniform of the platform security team. His name badge read Oren Cross. Chief Security Officer? I remembered him from my first life. He had been the one who investigated my death. He had cleared Kael of any wrongdoing within 48 hours. He had written the report that called it a tragic accident. He was holding a taser in his right hand. Dr. Vance, he said, you are supposed to be in the induction hall. I was looking for a restroom, I said. I got lost. His eyes moved to the smashed lock on the door. Then back to me. You got lost. With a fire extinguisher, I did not try to run. There was nowhere to run to. The platform was surrounded by 200 miles of freezing ocean. Oren Cross took me by the arm and escorted me back to the upper deck. He did not use the taser. He did not need to. His grip was a message. You cannot escape. Kael was waiting for us in a conference room near the main operations center. He was standing by the window looking out at the gray sea. When I entered, he turned and smiled. It was the same smile he had given me at my memorial service. Warm, kind, completely sincere. "Thea," he said. "Dr. Cross tells me you went exploring. Is everything all right?" I did not answer. He nodded at Oren, who released my arm and stepped back. "Leave us," Kael said. Oren hesitated. "Sir?" "It is fine," Kael said. "Dr. Vance and I are old friends. We have a lot to catch up on." Oren left. The door clicked shut. Kael gestured to a chair. "Sit down, Thea. Please." I remained standing. He shrugged and walked over to a small cabinet in the corner of the room. He opened it and took out a bottle of whiskey. 2 glasses. He poured them both. He handed one to me. I did not take it. He set it on the table beside me. "You know," he said, "when I saw your name on the induction list, I was surprised. You were not originally assigned to this expedition. Someone dropped out at the last minute. A mechanical engineer from Rotterdam. Family emergency. You were the alternate. It felt like fate." "Fate?" I said. My voice was flat. "Is that what you call it?" He studied me over the rim of his glass. "You are acting strangely, Thea. You broke into a restricted room. You tried to use an unauthorized communication device. You refused to attend the induction ceremony. What is going on?" I looked at him. I looked at the man who had murdered me. And I felt a calm I had never felt before. It was the calm of absolute certainty. "I know what you did," I said. Kael's expression did not change, but his hand tightened around his glass. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the umbilical cable. The ROV, the cutting blade. I'm talking about the life insurance policies. The patent you filed 6 months after my death. The mineral extraction technique I developed and you stole. I am talking about the fact that you are planning to do it again." Kael set down his glass very slowly. His eyes were no longer warm. They were cold and calculating. "That is quite an accusation," he said. "How do you propose to prove any of it?" "I do not need to prove it," I said. "I just need to make sure the right people know where to look." He tilted his head. "The right people. The Norwegian Coast Guard?" I said. "The International Seabed Authority. The Maritime Safety Commission. The Insurance Fraud Division of Interpol. I have already filed reports with all of them. If anything happens to me, if I disappear, if I suffer any kind of accident, those reports will be automatically released." He stared at me for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was not a nervous laugh. It was the laugh of a man who believed he was still in control. "You have not filed any reports," he said. "Your phone is in a locker. The satellite phone is deactivated. You have been on this platform for less than 3 hours. You are bluffing." I smiled. I said. "But you are not sure, are you? You cannot afford to be sure." The silence stretched between us like a wire pulled taut. Finally, Kael nodded slowly. "All right," he said. "Let us say, for the sake of argument, that you believe what you are saying. What do you want?" "I want to leave this platform. I want a helicopter back to the mainland. I want my phone returned. I want my contract terminated with no penalty." I said it calmly and clearly. I had rehearsed those 4 sentences 1,000 times in the 2 years I spent dead. Kael considered me. His eyes flickered toward the window. then back to me. I cannot let you leave, he said. The expedition begins in 3 days. Your replacement cannot arrive in time. The project will be delayed. The investors will lose confidence. The company could lose the contract. I do not care about the company, I said. He leaned forward. His voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. What if I offered you a better option? Stay on the expedition. Work alongside me. Help me complete the Borealis project. And when it is finished, I will give you a share of the profits. $1 million. $2 million. Name your price. I stared at him. You think I can be bought? Everyone can be bought, he said. The question is only the price. Not me, I said. Not anymore. Kael's expression hardened. The mask slipped for just a fraction of a second. And I saw the real man underneath. The man who had watched me die. The man who had felt nothing. Very well, he said. If you will not work with me, then I must ensure you do not work against me. He pressed a button on the table. The door opened and Oren Cross entered. Dr. Vance is feeling unwell, Kael said. Please escort her to the medical bay. She is to remain under observation until further notice. Oren nodded and grabbed my arm. I did not resist. There was no point in resisting. Not yet. The medical bay was a small, windowless room on the lowest level of the accommodation block. It had a single bed bolted to the floor, a locked cabinet of sedatives, a security camera in the corner. I sat on the bed and waited. I had known this was a possible outcome. The bluff about the reports had been a gamble. It bought me time. It did not buy me freedom. But I had another card to play. I just needed the right moment. 2 hours later, the door opened. Morris Elise walked in. She was holding a tray of food and a glass of water. She looked at me with wide, frightened eyes. Thea, she whispered. What is happening? They told me you had a breakdown. They said you were being sedated and flown back to the mainland tomorrow. I looked at the tray. I looked at the water. In my first life, I had trusted Mara completely. I had shared meals with her. I had confided in her. I had considered her a friend. This time I knew better. Not because Mara was a villain, but because trust was a luxury I could no longer afford. Mara, I said, do you remember the induction speech Kael gave? The part about how the Borealis project was going to change the world? She nodded. Yes, of course. It was convincing. It was designed to be, I said. But did you notice what he did not mention? He did not mention the safety protocols for the saturation divers. He did not mention the backup oxygen systems for the ROV pilots. He did not mention the emergency evacuation procedures. He did not mention any of the things that actually keep people alive at 300 meters. Mora frowned. What are you saying? I am saying, I said, that 2 years ago there was another expedition, smaller, classified, and the lead engineer on that expedition died during a routine maintenance dive. Her umbilical was severed. The company called it an accident, but it was not an accident. Mara's face went pale. Thea, what are you talking about? How do you know this? I know, because I was that engineer, I said. Mara stared at me. Her tray rattled in her shaking hands. That is not possible, she said. That was 2 years ago. You would have been. Dead, I finished for her. Yes. I was dead. And now, I am not. And I have exactly one chance to make sure it does not happen again. To me, to you, to any of us. I do not know if she believed me. The story sounded insane. I knew it sounded insane. But something in my voice must have reached her. Something in my eyes. Because she did not run out of the room. She did not call for Oren. She just stood there, breathing hard. "What do you need me to do?" she asked. I told her about the emergency beacon in the lifeboat station. The beacon was designed to activate automatically if the platform suffered a catastrophic failure. It broadcast on a secure frequency monitored by maritime rescue agencies. It was never tested. The company made sure of that. But I knew where it was. I'd inspected it during a safety drill in my first life. I had noted its serial number. I had memorized its activation code. In my previous life, I had thought I was being paranoid. Now I understood. Survival is the slow accumulation of contingencies. "Mara," I said, "I need you to go to the lifeboat station. I need you to open the beacon housing. The access panel is on the left side. There is a keypad. Enter the code 8847. Hold the red button for 10 seconds. That will trigger a false Mayday signal. The Norwegian Coast Guard will respond. They will send a helicopter. They will board the platform. And when they arrive, I need you to tell them exactly what I told you." Mara was trembling. "Why cannot you do it?" "Because I am locked in this room," I said. "And Oren Cross is watching the corridors. And Kael Voss is monitoring the communications. But no one is watching the lifeboat station. No one ever watches the lifeboat station. Because no one plans to need it." Mara left the food tray and the water glass. She did not look back. I sat on the bed and stared at the security camera in the corner. The red light blinked. Recording. Always recording. I wondered who was watching. Oren. Kael. Someone else. It did not matter. I was not doing anything suspicious. I was just a woman sitting on a bed, waiting. 20 minutes passed. 30 minutes. 40. Then I heard the helicopter. The sound was distant at first. A low, thrumming vibration through the steel walls. Then louder. Then unmistakable. I stood up and walked to the door. It was still locked from the outside, but I could hear shouting in the corridor. Boots pounding on metal, grating. The platform had gone from silence to chaos in the space of a heartbeat. The door burst open. Oren Cross stood in the doorway. His face was red with fury. "What did you do?" he snarled. I smiled. I called for help. The helicopter landed on the platform's main deck 20 minutes later. 4 Norwegian Coast Guard officers disembarked with weapons drawn. They were followed by 2 investigators from the Maritime Safety Commission. They swept through the accommodation block. They swept through the operations center. They swept through the medical bay. They found me locked in my room. They found the documents in the radio room. They found the insurance policies listing Aegis Deepwater Solutions as the sole beneficiary. They found the falsified safety inspection reports. They found the unregistered modifications to the saturation diving equipment. They found everything. Kael Voss was arrested on the helipad trying to board a company evacuation flight. His face was a mask of disbelief. This was not supposed to happen. He had planned everything so carefully. He had accounted for every variable. Except one. He had accounted for a dead woman. Oren Cross was arrested in the operations center trying to delete the security footage. Mara Solis gave a sworn statement to the investigators. She told them everything I had told her. She told them about the severed umbilical. She told them about the stolen research. She told them about the insurance fraud. She did not tell them I had died and come back to life. She told them I was a whistleblower who had uncovered a conspiracy. That was a story people could believe. That was a story that would hold up in court. I was airlifted to a hospital in Bergen. My hands were still shaking. My heart was still pounding, but I was alive. I was whole. I was free. The investigation took 11 months. Aegis Deepwater Solutions was dissolved. Its assets were seized. Its CEO was indicted on charges of corporate manslaughter, insurance fraud, and violation of international maritime law. Kael was sentenced to 25 years in a Norwegian prison. He will be 67 when he is released. If he is released, Oren Cross received 15 years for conspiracy and obstruction of justice. 6 other executives received sentences ranging from 5 to 12 years. The 12 inductees who had been recruited for the Borealis project were interviewed and released. Some of them were furious at me. They blamed me for destroying their opportunity. They said I had overreacted. They said I was paranoid. I did not argue with them. I did not need to. The evidence spoke for itself. The machines I had been designing for the seabed were never built. The patents Kael had stolen were revoked. The mineral rights the company had purchased were voided. The ocean remained untouched. For now. My sister Lena called me 3 days after the news broke. Thea, she said, I saw the headlines. I saw the photos of the platform. What were you doing working for that company? I did not tell her about my first death. I did not tell her about the settlement she had taken. I did not tell her about the beachfront apartment she had bought with my blood money. I did not tell her any of it. Because in this timeline, none of that had happened. She was not guilty of anything except ignorance. And ignorance was not a crime. I needed a change of scenery, I said. It did not work out. She laughed nervously. You always were terrible at picking jobs. I know, I said. I am getting better at it. My parents visited me a month later. They brought flowers. They brought a check. It was for $50,000. From a legal settlement the Norwegian government had awarded to the families of the victims. We are so proud of you, my mother said. You did the right thing. You risked everything to expose the truth. I looked at the check. I thought about the world in which they had taken twice that much and bought a luxury condo. I thought about the world in which they had not questioned the company's version of events. I thought about the world in which they had buried me without a single doubt. And I understood that this world was different. This world was clean. This world had not yet been stained by their betrayal. I took the check. Thank you, I said. I did not tear it up. I donated it to a marine conservation fund. I did not tell them. They did not need to know. The book I wrote about the Aegis scandal took 14 months. It was called The Silence at 300 Meters. It became an international bestseller. It was translated into 16 languages. It was nominated for awards I did not win and did not care about. I was not writing for recognition. I was writing for the record, so that the next Kael Voss who tried to build an empire on stolen lives would know that someone was watching. So that the next 12 young engineers who were offered easy money and easy answers would know to ask questions. So that the next woman who found herself locked in a windowless room 300 meters from shore would know that escape is possible. I am 30 years old now. I live in a small apartment in Reykjavik. The windows look out at the harbor. Every morning I watch the fishing boats leave and the cargo ships arrive. I own a coffee shop near the waterfront. It is called The Compass. It is a small thing. warm and wood-paneled and always smelling of fresh bread. I am not an engineer anymore. I do not design machines for the deep sea. I design spaces where people can sit and talk and breathe. It is a kind of healing I did not expect. Mara visits me twice a year. She lives in Oslo now. She works for the Maritime Safety Commission. She tells me about the new regulations the Aegis case inspired. She tells me about the container ship inspections and the safety reforms and the young divers who will never know how close they came to the same fate. She calls me her guardian angel. I tell her to stop. I tell her I was just a woman who refused to die. She says that's the definition of an angel. I do not agree. But I do not argue either. Kael Voss wrote me a letter from prison last year. I did not open it. I did not need to. I do not want his apologies. I do not want his explanations. I do not want his remorse if he even feels any. I have everything I need. I have my life. I have my voice. I have the sea. Not as an enemy. Not as a grave. But as a companion. A vast and indifferent witness to the fact that I am still here. The other night, I dreamed of the platform. I was standing on the helipad, watching the helicopter approach. The rotors were loud. The wind was cold. And behind me, Kael Voss was screaming. But I did not turn around. I did not need to see him. I already knew what he looked like when he lost. I woke up smiling. Not a triumphant smile. Not a vindictive smile. Just the quiet smile of someone who knows they are exactly where they are supposed to be. My name is Thea Vance. I am a marine engineer who became a barista. A survivor who became a storyteller. A dead woman who decided not to stay dead. And if you ever find yourself on a platform in the middle of the sea, and someone tells you the emergency phone does not work, do not believe them. Check for yourself. Break the lock if you have to. Call for help. Scream into the void until someone hears you. Because someone will. I did. And I am still here.